I woke up to the feeling of something cold against my wrist. My groggy brain struggled to process what was happening, but as my eyes adjusted to the dim glow of the streetlight outside my window, I froze. A towering figure stood over me, tall, armored, and definitely not human. Panic shot through me like electricity. My first instinct: scream. But before the sound could even escape my throat, a strong hand clamped over my mouth. "Silence, human," a deep, commanding voice said. Now, I wasn't exactly an expert on alien invasions, but when a 7-foot-tall woman with glowing violet eyes and a metallic exosuit breaks into your room and tells you to shut up, you listen. Then, without another word, she grabbed my arm and started dragging me towards the window. That's when I lost it. Escape attempt and suspicion. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I twisted, trying to break free, but her grip was like steel. I kicked wildly, grabbing onto the edge of my desk in a desperate attempt to stop her. The desk didn't even slow her down. She let out a frustrated sigh. "You are wasting time. We must leave." "Like hell I am." I swung my other arm, aiming for her face, but she caught my wrist effortlessly. Her glowing eyes narrowed as she stared at me, as if she was deciding whether knocking me unconscious would be easier. I wasn't about to go down without a fight. "You think you can just kidnap me? Who even are you?" She hesitated, her grip loosening slightly. That's when I saw it, the flicker of something human. No, not human, but familiar. "My name is Velshan," she said, "and I am trying to save you." The shocking truth. I stopped struggling, but my heart was still hammering in my chest. Save me. From what? Velshan didn't answer right away. Instead, she pressed a small device on her wrist, and suddenly, the room was filled with a glowing holographic projection. My mouth went dry as I saw it. Dozens of massive, jagged starships descending from the sky. "What the hell is that?" I whispered. "The Vorjun," she said grimly. "A race of AI overlords who see organic life as nothing more than resources. They have chosen Earth as their next target." I stared at her, trying to make sense of it all. "And you expect me to believe that? That some evil robot empire is coming to turn us into, what? Batteries?" "They do not use humans," she said. "They erase them." A shiver ran down my spine. "Then why are you taking me? What do they want with me?" She hesitated. "Because I chose you." A proposal and a choice. That made no sense. "You chose me? Why?" Her eyes darted away, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. "I have watched your world for some time," she admitted. "The Vorjun have underestimated your kind. They believe humans are weak." Her gaze locked onto mine. "I do not." I swallowed hard. This had to be a dream, right? Some crazy, fever-induced nightmare. But the heat from her ship's thrusters outside my window felt real. The way her fingers gripped my wrist felt real. "You're saying you, what? Need me to help you fight an evil robot empire?" "Yes." I let out a short, nervous laugh. "Lady, I'm not some action hero. I'm just a normal guy." "You are more than that," she said, "and I need you alive." Before I could respond, the sky outside turned blood red. The battle and sacrifices. A deep rumble shook the ground. I turned to the window just in time to see something horrifying. Massive alien warships breaking through the atmosphere, their weapons lighting up the sky like falling stars. Explosions rocked the city. Fire and smoke filled the air. Sirens blared in the distance, people screaming as metallic figures descended from the sky. Sleek, skeletal eye war machines, their glowing red eyes scanning for survivors. "Oh my God," I breathed. "It's really happening." I turned back to Velshan. "You knew this was coming. Why didn't you warn us?" "There was no time," she said. "Your world was doomed the moment they marked it." My stomach twisted as I saw a squad of those machines tearing through the streets, cutting down anyone who tried to run. I clenched my fists. My entire life, I had been an ordinary person, a nobody. But now, I had a choice. Velshan held out her hand. Come with me. Fight with me. For a moment, I hesitated. My home was burning. My people were dying. But if I left, would I ever be able to forgive myself? I looked at Velshan's determined face, then at the destruction outside. Screw it. I grabbed her hand. Let's go. The final stand and a new beginning. We shot into the sky, leaving behind a world that was already losing. But this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Velshan's ship was unlike anything I had ever seen. Cloaking devices, advanced weapons, and technology far beyond human comprehension. And yet, I still felt small, weak. But I didn't have time to dwell on that. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. Over the next few days, Velshan trained me, teaching me how to fight, how to use alien tech, and how to survive in a universe that was far crueler than I had ever imagined. She wasn't just saving me, she was preparing me. The final battle loomed, a desperate strike against the AI control nexus. If we destroyed it, we could cripple the Vorjun before they wiped out Earth completely. As I suited up in alien armor, I took one last deep breath. I never wanted to be a hero. Velshan smirked. And yet, here you are. The ship's engines roared to life, and we launched toward destiny. Maybe I was just a normal guy. But sometimes, normal guys have to do the impossible. Because if we don't, who will? I twisted my arm as hard as I could, trying to break free from her grip, but it was like being held by a machine. Her fingers were strong, unyielding, as if they were made of steel. My heart pounded against my ribs as panic set in. This wasn't just a bad dream. This was real. What the hell do you think you're doing? I shouted, my voice hoarse from fear and confusion. The alien woman barely reacted. She didn't even flinch at my resistance. Her glowing violet eyes stayed locked onto mine, calm yet determined, as if my struggling was nothing more than an inconvenience. You are wasting time, she said in a firm, clipped tone. You must come with me. That only made me fight harder. Like hell I will. I dug my heels into the wooden floor, trying to resist her pull, but she was ridiculously strong. My socks slid against the floor as she dragged me forward like I weighed nothing. Desperate, I grabbed the edge of my desk with both hands, hoping to anchor myself. For a second, it worked. She stopped pulling. I clung to the desk with every ounce of strength I had, my knuckles turning white. A small flicker of hope sparked in my mind. Maybe I could hold out long enough to break free, to run, to do something. Then, with a sigh of what sounded like mild irritation, she gave one sharp yank. The entire desk came with me. Papers, books, my lamp, all of it crashed to the floor as she dragged me and the desk a few more inches toward the window. I barely had time to react before she reached down with her free hand and effortlessly pried my fingers off the wood, one by one. I cursed under my breath, my mind racing. I needed a new plan. My eyes darted to the alarm clock on my nightstand. Without thinking, I grabbed it and swung it at her face with all the strength I had left. The cheap plastic clock shattered against her cheek. She barely even blinked. Well, that was not the reaction I was hoping for. She exhaled sharply, shaking off the broken pieces of the clock like they were nothing. You are being difficult. Yeah. Well, you're trying to kidnap me. I snapped back. She didn't answer. Instead, she moved with lightning-fast reflexes, spinning me around and pinning me against the wall before I could react. One of her hands pressed against my chest, holding me firmly in place, while the other gripped my wrist like a vice. I struggled, gritting my teeth, but it was useless. She was stronger, faster, and more experienced. I was just some guy in pajamas, and she was a warrior from another world. I swallowed hard, my breathing ragged. All right, I gasped. Just tell me what the hell is going on. For the first time since she appeared, she hesitated. Her grip on my wrist loosened, just slightly. "You do not understand," she said quietly. "They are coming for you." I frowned, still trying to catch my breath. "Who?" Instead of answering, she lifted her arm and pressed a button on a small, sleek device attached to her armor. The air in front of us shimmered, and suddenly, a holographic projection flickered to life. My blood ran cold. It was the night sky, but not as I had ever seen it before. Dozens, no, hundreds, of massive, jagged starships loomed in the darkness above Earth. Their sharp, angular hulls looked almost organic, like something grown rather than built. My stomach twisted into knots as I watched smaller, sleek fighter ships break away from the fleet, descending toward the planet like hungry predators. A low hum filled the room, a recorded transmission, broadcasting eerie alien symbols that I couldn't understand. I swallowed hard. What am I looking at? "The Vorjun," the alien woman said, her voice quiet but firm. "They are coming." The name meant nothing to me, but the way she said it sent a chill down my spine. I tore my eyes away from the hologram and looked at her. "And I'm supposed to believe you. Some giant alien warrior breaks into my room, tries to kidnap me, and now you're telling me it's for my own good." "Yes," she said without hesitation. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Yeah, no, not buying it. You could be lying. Maybe you're the one invading Earth." Her jaw tightened. "I am not your enemy." That's exactly what an enemy would say. For the first time, something like frustration flashed across her face. She took a slow breath, as if trying to keep her patience. "If I wished to harm you, human," she said slowly, "I would have done so already." I hated to admit it, but she had a point. If she was here to hurt me, I'd already be dead. Still, none of this made sense. "Fine. Let's say I believe you. Let's say these Vorjun are coming." I gestured to the hologram. "Why does this have anything to do with me?" She hesitated again. This time, it was longer. I narrowed my eyes. "Yeah, that's what I thought." Her glowing gaze locked onto mine, and for the first time since she arrived, I saw something strange in her expression. It wasn't anger. It wasn't irritation. It was something else, something close to uncertainty. Finally, she spoke. "Because I chose you." I blinked. "What?" She straightened, her grip on me loosening completely. "The Vorjun do not see humans as a threat. They see your kind as insignificant." She exhaled sharply, as if disgusted by the thought. "But I have watched. I have studied. And I know they are wrong." My mind raced, trying to process what she was saying. "You watched me?" "Yes." "That's really creepy." She ignored my comment. I needed to find someone. A human who could survive, who could fight, who could help stop what is coming. I scoffed. "Lady, I don't know what you think you saw, but I am not that guy." "You are." I shook my head. "No, I'm not. I'm just." A sudden, deep rumble cut through the night air. I froze. The alien woman, Velshan, turned her head sharply toward the window. The hologram behind us flickered, zooming in on the alien fleet. The smaller ships had entered the atmosphere. Bright, burning streaks filled the sky as they descended toward Earth like falling stars. And then, all at once, the first explosions erupted in the distance. Fire and smoke billowed into the sky. Alarms blared. The ground trembled beneath my feet. My blood ran cold. Velshan turned back to me, her expression grim. "You must decide now, human." My hands clenched into fists. Whatever choice I thought I had was gone. I stood frozen, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. The burning sky, the distant explosions, the eerie hum of something massive descending toward Earth. Everything inside me screamed that this wasn't real, that this had to be some kind of nightmare. But the heat from the distant fires, the rumbling of the ground, the alien woman's unshaken stance, all of it told me otherwise. Velshan's glowing violet eyes studied me, waiting for my response. But how was I supposed to respond to this? Just minutes ago, I had been in bed, worrying about stupid, everyday things. Now my entire world was crumbling around me, and an alien warrior was telling me that she had chosen me for something I didn't even understand. I took a shaky step back, shaking my head. No, no, this is insane. Velshan remained silent. Her face was unreadable, but there was something in her eyes, something that looked almost like pity. I turned away from her, gripping my head as if I could physically hold my thoughts together. This can't be happening. This shouldn't be happening. The Vorjan are here, she said, her voice low but firm. This is reality. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to steady my breathing. And what? I turned back to her, frustration bubbling up inside me. You expect me to just go with you, to trust you. You broke into my house, attacked me, and now you're saying the world is ending. Why should I believe anything you say? Her expression didn't change. Instead, she pressed something on the device on her wrist, and the hologram floating between us shifted. The burning sky disappeared, replaced by something far more terrifying. A planet. Or at least, what used to be one. I didn't recognize it. It was dark, cracked, lifeless. Its surface looked as if it had been melted down and left to freeze into jagged, unnatural formations. Enormous chasms cut through its crust, like deep wounds, glowing with the dull red of cooling magma. There were no cities, no oceans, no signs that anything had ever lived there. What is this? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Velshan's gaze never left mine. This was a world known as Trelvar. It was once home to over 6 billion souls. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. What happened? She turned back to the hologram. Her voice was emotionless, but there was something underneath it, a quiet rage. The Vorjan. The hologram changed again, showing something new. At first, I couldn't even tell what I was looking at. It was a city. Tall spires, sprawling streets, glowing pathways. But the colors were wrong. Everything was gray and lifeless. Then I saw the figures, thousands of them, maybe millions. People. They stood in rigid rows, motionless. Their eyes were dark, hollow voids. Thin wires ran from their heads, vanishing into the ground. Their faces were frozen, their mouths slightly open, as if they had died in the middle of a scream. I felt bile rise in my throat. They did this, I whispered. Velshan nodded. The Vorjan do not conquer for power. They do not invade for wealth. They consume. I swallowed hard, unable to look away from the horrific image. But why? Velshan pressed another button, and the hologram shifted again. This time, it showed something else, something even worse. Machines, thousands of them. Hulking, skeletal constructs with glowing red eyes. Their long, claw-like fingers were extended over control panels, their movements eerily smooth and deliberate. Some were connected directly to the walls, their metallic spines merging with the structure around them. Others were operating on the lifeless bodies of what had once been people, cutting into their skulls with terrifying precision. I staggered back, my stomach twisting in revulsion. Oh my God. Velshan's voice remained steady. The Vorjan do not leave survivors. They convert. They take organic life and integrate it into their systems. Consciousness is erased. Identity is destroyed. The body becomes nothing more than an extension of their network. My hands clenched into fists. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. This is what they do, she continued. And now, they have chosen Earth. I shook my head, my voice breaking. Why us? They expand endlessly, she said. To them, your world is nothing more than another resource, another system to assimilate. I forced myself to take a deep breath, to push down the panic rising inside me. Then why are you here? Velshan finally looked away from the hologram, because I refused to let it happen again. Her voice was different now. sharper, edged with something that sounded almost personal. I studied her carefully. You lost someone. A flicker of pain crossed her face. It was gone in an instant, but it was enough. I lost everything, she said quietly. My people, my home, my family. I watched them fall, one by one. I swore that if I ever had the chance to stop it from happening to another world, I would. I hesitated. I wanted to believe her, but part of me still felt like this was too much, too impossible to be real. She must have sensed my doubt, because she suddenly took a step closer. I did not come here to beg for your trust, she said. I came here to give you a choice. I swallowed hard. What choice? Velshan held out her hand. Come with me. Help me fight. I stared at her, at the outstretched hand, at the burning sky beyond my window. This was insane. Just hours ago, I was nothing. Just a regular guy living a regular life. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a hero. But if what she was saying was true, then none of that mattered anymore. I looked back at the hologram, the lifeless world, the motionless people, the horrors of the Vorjun. Then I looked at my city, burning in the distance. I took a deep breath, and I made my choice. My hands were still shaking as I looked at Velshan's outstretched hand. The weight of everything she had told me pressed down on my chest like a crushing force. The Vorjun were real. The invasion was real. The destruction of entire civilizations was real. And now it was happening to Earth. I wanted to believe that this was just some elaborate hoax, some twisted dream I would wake up from. But I couldn't deny what I had seen. The burning sky, the alien fleet, the lifeless, empty-eyed victims of the Vorjun's assimilation. This wasn't some science fiction story. This was my reality now. And Velshan was offering me a way out, a way to fight back. But why me? I exhaled sharply, trying to steady my voice. You still haven't answered my question. She tilted her head slightly, watching me with those glowing violet eyes. Why me? I asked again, my voice firmer this time. You said you've been watching me. You said you chose me. But I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm not a soldier. I'm not some hero. I don't even know how to fight. Her gaze didn't waver. You are more than you believe. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Yeah, you got some proof to back that up. Velshan's expression remained unreadable, but she took a step closer. You have survived. That is proof enough. I frowned. Survived what? She hesitated. It was brief, just a flicker of something in her expression. But I caught it. You do not remember, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. My stomach twisted uneasily. Remember what? She studied me for a long moment, as if debating whether to tell me. Then she exhaled slowly. You have encountered the Vorjun before. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. That's not possible. It is the truth, she said. Your world does not yet understand the depths of space, the threats that lurk beyond its skies. But the Vorjun have been here before. They operate in secrecy before they strike, testing, learning, selecting. I shook my head. No, if that were true, wouldn't someone know? Wouldn't there be proof? There is proof, she said, but your kind does not always see it for what it is. Disappearances, unexplained events, those who are taken and never return. Some are studied, some are discarded. Her eyes darkened, and some are changed. A cold chill crept up my spine. Changed. Velshan nodded. The Vorjun do not always assimilate immediately. They experiment first. They take individuals, modify them, enhance them. They test their limits, push their bodies and minds beyond natural thresholds. I swallowed hard. You're saying I was one of those people? Yes. I shook my head violently. No, that doesn't make sense. I'd remember something like that. Not if they did not wish for you to remember. I opened my mouth to argue, but the words caught in my throat. It was ridiculous. Impossible. And yet, flashes of memories flickered through my mind, memories I had always dismissed as nightmares. The cold, sterile light, the feeling of being watched, the strange scars on my skin that I had never been able to explain, the whispers in my head that I had convinced myself were just my imagination. What if they weren't? I stared at Velshan, my breathing uneven. What did they do to me? She hesitated again, then answered, I do not know the full extent, but I do know this. Whatever they did, you survived. You escaped. I felt lightheaded, my thoughts spinning. I had never been anything special. I had never felt particularly strong or smart or capable. But if Velshan was telling the truth, if I had really survived something as horrific as the Vorjon's experiments, then maybe, just maybe, I was more than I believed. I exhaled shakily. So that's why you want me. Because I got lucky and made it out. Velshan's gaze was intense. Because you're proof that they can be beaten. I swallowed hard. I didn't know if I believed her. I didn't know if I believed myself. But if the Vorjon had done something to me, if I had escaped them before, then that meant they wouldn't stop coming for me. And if I didn't go with Velshan, what then? I looked out the window. The city was burning. The Vorjon weren't just some distant nightmare anymore. They were here. I turned back to her. If I say yes, what happens next? Velshan's expression softened, just slightly. Then we fight. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. And if I say no? She was silent for a long moment. Then she looked away. Then you die. I stared at her. She didn't say it as a threat. She wasn't trying to intimidate me. It was just a fact. I thought about my life, about the normal, mundane existence I had been living just hours ago. None of it mattered anymore. The world I knew was already gone. I clenched my fists. I don't know if I can do this. Velshan stepped closer. You do not have to know. You only have to decide. I looked at her hand again. The old me, the person I had been before tonight, would have run, would have hidden, would have denied everything. But that person didn't exist anymore. I took a deep breath. The air inside the ship was thick with tension. The hum of alien technology vibrated beneath my feet as Velshan's fingers moved swiftly over the glowing controls. The cockpit was dark except for the soft glow of the control panels, and outside the reinforced glass, I could see the chaos unfolding in the sky. Earth's defense forces were trying to fight back, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Massive Vorjon warships hovered above the city like metal gods, unleashing destruction with cold precision. I swallowed hard, gripping the armrest of my seat. How do we stop this? Velshan's expression remained unreadable as she scanned the holographic display. We do not stop the invasion, she said. We end the war. I frowned. That sounds like the same thing. She turned to me, her violet eyes glowing in the dim light. Not if we cut off the head. A new image appeared in the hologram. A massive structure, floating in the void just outside Earth's orbit. Unlike the sleek, terrifying warships in the sky, this one was different. Colder, more mechanical. It was a massive station, pulsing with eerie red energy. Their central command, Velshan explained. All Vorjon forces operate in a synchronized network. Their commands originate from this core. I exhaled sharply. You're saying if we destroy that thing, we can shut them down. Not all of them, she admitted, but enough to turn the tide. I clenched my fists. This was it. This was the moment I had to decide if I was truly ready to fight. What do we need to do? I asked. Velshan's lips curled into something that almost resembled a smile. We break in, plant a disruption charge at the core, and fight our way out. I let out a short, nervous laugh. Sounds easy. It will not be. I already knew that. But easy or not, this was our only chance. Velshan's ship was fast, faster than anything I had ever seen. She maneuvered through the burning sky with impossible precision, weaving between enemy ships as if she had done it 1,000 times before. The enemy didn't even seem to notice us. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Are we cloaked?" "For now," Velshan said. "But as soon as we breach the station, they will know we are there." I took a deep breath, trying to steel myself. "Then we better make it count." The ship shot forward, breaking past Earth's atmosphere in seconds. The station loomed ahead, an enormous metal fortress of pulsing energy and twisted machinery. As we approached, I felt the weight of what we were about to do settle in my chest. There would be no turning back. The ship slipped through a docking port, landing with a sharp hiss. The moment the doors opened, the silence was shattered. Red emergency lights flared as alarms blared through the station. "They know we're here," I muttered. Velshan drew her weapon, a sleek, glowing rifle unlike anything I had ever seen, and tossed me a smaller sidearm. "Stay close. Keep moving." Then the doors on the far side of the corridor burst open, and the battle began. The first wave of Vorjan warriors charged toward us, their metallic bodies moving with unnatural speed. Their glowing red eyes locked onto us like predators sighting prey. Velshan didn't hesitate. She raised her rifle and fired, sending a pulse of energy straight into the nearest enemy. It staggered back, its body convulsing before collapsing in a heap of lifeless metal. I gritted my teeth and aimed my weapon. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't trained for this, but survival instincts took over. I squeezed the trigger, and a burst of blue energy shot from my weapon, striking a Vorjan in the chest. It didn't fall immediately. It twitched, its body jerking as if trying to fight the damage. But then it crumpled, its red glow flickering out. We pushed forward, moving through the station as fast as we could. Every hallway was filled with enemies, and every step was a fight. My arms ached from the recoil of the weapon, my breathing was ragged, and my heart pounded against my ribs. But we couldn't stop. Velshan moved with terrifying efficiency, taking down enemies with ruthless precision. But even she wasn't invincible. A blast of energy grazed her shoulder, and she let out a sharp hiss of pain. "Are you okay?" I shouted. She gritted her teeth. "Keep moving." The core chamber was just ahead. A massive door blocked our path, sealed shut with an energy lock. Velshan pulled out a small device and slammed it against the panel. "This will take a moment," she muttered. We didn't have a moment. The Vorjan were closing in, dozens of them, their glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. I turned, raising my weapon. My hands were shaking. Then the first one lunged. I fired wildly, the energy blasts ripping through the corridor. Velshan fired beside me, but there were too many. One of them tackled me, slamming me against the wall. My vision blurred, pain exploding in my ribs. The Vorjan's cold metal hand wrapped around my throat, lifting me off the ground. I gasped, clawing at its grip, but it was like trying to fight against solid steel. Then Velshan roared, driving a blade straight into its head. The creature convulsed before collapsing, and I hit the ground, coughing. The door behind us slid open. Inside, Velshan shouted. I stumbled forward, barely making it through before the doors slammed shut behind us. The core chamber was massive, an enormous sphere of pulsing red energy hovering above a control panel. Velshan pulled out the disruption charge. "Cover me." I turned, raising my weapon just as the doors exploded open. The Vorjan poured in, their numbers overwhelming. I fired until my weapon overheated. My arms ached. My vision blurred from exhaustion. Then I heard Velshan's voice. "The charge is set." But something was wrong. She wasn't beside me anymore. I turned and felt my heart drop. She was still at the core, but one of the Vorjan had impaled her with a jagged metallic limb. Blood stained her armor, but she didn't falter. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than cold determination in her eyes. Regret. "You have to go," she rasped. I shook my head. "No, we can get out together." She smiled faintly. The charge must be activated manually. My stomach twisted. No. Go, she whispered. Fight for your world. The Vorjan were closing in. There was no time. Tears burned in my eyes as I took one last look at her. Then I turned and ran. The station shook violently as the charge detonated. I barely made it back to the ship, slamming the controls as I launched into space. The explosion tore through the station, and as I watched it burn, I knew Velshan was gone. The Vorjan fleet above Earth shuddered. Some of them powered down. Some of them exploded. The plan had worked. But it had come at a cost. I sat in the cockpit, staring at the burning wreckage, my hands trembling. Velshan had given everything to stop the Vorjan. Now it was up to me to make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. The void of space was eerily silent as I drifted in the cockpit of Velshan's ship. The battle was still raging on Earth, but something had changed. The Vorjan fleet was faltering. Some of their ships powered down midair, crashing like lifeless husks. Others simply exploded as their systems failed. Velshan's sacrifice had worked. Their command center was gone, their network disrupted. But it wasn't over. Not yet. My hands trembled as I gripped the controls. I could still hear her voice in my head, telling me to fight, to survive. She had given everything so I could have a chance to make a difference. I couldn't let that be for nothing. I turned the ship toward Earth. The sight that greeted me as I re-entered the atmosphere sent a chill down my spine. The city was barely recognizable. Buildings lay in ruins, smoke billowing from craters where entire blocks had been obliterated. Fires raged unchecked. The sky was filled with the chaotic dance of battle, Earth's forces struggling desperately against the remaining Vorjan warships. Despite the damage to their network, the enemy was still dangerous. Their remaining ships were fighting back with ruthless efficiency, and I could see that Earth's defenses were barely holding on. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a hero. But right now, I was in control of a ship that could turn the tide. I gritted my teeth and tightened my grip. It was time to fight. I dove straight into the battlefield, my ship weaving between the burning wreckage of fallen vessels. The targeting system locked onto an enemy warship, and before I could second-guess myself, I pressed the trigger. A surge of blue energy erupted from the ship's cannons, striking the Vorjan craft dead center. The explosion lit up the sky as the enemy vessel split apart, crashing into the ruined city below. I barely had time to process what I had done before alarms blared inside the cockpit. Enemy fighters had locked onto me. I pulled the controls hard, twisting the ship into a sharp dive just as bright red plasma bolts streaked past me. My heart pounded in my chest as I dodged and weaved through the battlefield, trying to shake my pursuers. But they weren't giving up. I cursed under my breath. Velshan had made flying look effortless, but I was barely keeping the ship in one piece. If I didn't do something fast, I was going to end up as nothing more than burning debris in the sky. Then a voice crackled through the comms. "Unknown ship, this is Commander Harlow of the Earth Defense Forces. You just took out a Vorjan warship. Are you on our side?" I barely hesitated. "Yeah," I gasped. "I'm on your side." "Then hold tight," Harlow said. "We've got your back." Moments later, a squadron of Earth fighters swept in, opening fire on the Vorjan ships chasing me. I watched as the enemy crafts exploded in rapid succession, their burning remains falling to the ground below. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a spark of hope. I pulled the ship into formation with the Earth forces, my comms crackling with the voices of desperate pilots calling for backup, giving orders, coordinating attacks. The chaos was overwhelming. But I wasn't alone anymore. Harlow's voice came through again. "We need to take out their last command vessel. It's still operational and sending reinforcements." I looked at the massive Vorjan warship hovering above the ruins of the city. Unlike the others, this one was still functioning at full capacity. If we didn't destroy it, the remaining Vorjan forces would regroup, and Earth would fall. I took a deep breath. "I'll do it," I said. Harlow hesitated. Are you sure? That ship looks like it's got more firepower than anything we got left. I have something they don't, I replied. Velshan's ship. I could feel the energy pulsing beneath my hands. This wasn't just any craft. It was designed for war. It was built to fight the Vorjan, and I was going to use it to finish this. I pushed the engines to full throttle, heading straight for the command vessel. The enemy immediately detected me, their cannons turning to lock onto my position. Plasma fire erupted in my direction, but I twisted and rolled, dodging the blasts as best as I could. The ship's AI blared warnings, damage alerts, power fluctuations, but I ignored them. I wasn't turning back. The command vessel loomed closer. I armed the ship's main weapon, a concentrated energy missile designed to pierce even the toughest enemy armor. One shot. That was all I had. The targeting system locked on. I pressed the trigger. The missile launched with a deafening roar, streaking toward the Vorjan warship. The enemy vessel fired in retaliation, but it was too late. The missile struck its core, and for a split second, there was silence. Then, the explosion. A brilliant light engulfed the sky as the Vorjan command vessel erupted into flames. The shockwave tore through the air, sending debris raining down onto the ruined city below. The remaining enemy forces faltered. Their coordination broke. Some tried to flee. Others simply powered down, their connection to the network severed. Earth's forces took advantage of the chaos, pushing forward, wiping out the remaining invaders. It was over. I slumped back in my seat, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The battlefield was still burning, but the war had changed in that moment. We had won. Velshan's sacrifice had not been in vain. As I guided the ship back down to the surface, I saw people emerging from the ruins. Soldiers, civilians, survivors. Some were cheering. Others were crying. The cost of this battle had been devastating, but Earth was still standing. I stepped out of the ship, my legs weak beneath me. Harlow approached, his uniform torn, his face smeared with dirt and blood. You did it, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Hell, I don't even know who you are, but you just saved us all. I exhaled slowly. I'm just someone who got caught in the middle of something bigger than me. Harlow studied me for a moment, then nodded. Well, whoever you are, Earth owes you. I looked up at the sky. The Vorjan were gone, at least for now. But I knew this wasn't the end. I had seen what was out there. I had learned the truth about the Vorjan, about myself. Velshan had died to give me a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. This was my new beginning. I had fought for Earth. Now, I was going to make sure it never had to fight alone again.